Steady, I want to be ready to get the best of me. I'm only one, but not alone. My mistakes. There is a war. You are successful to accomplish your goals, to leave your mark on this generation. You have greatness in you. The key is to get it out. In this book, I create 8 principles that will help you reach your potential, that you can become all you were created to be. I've seen them work in my own life and in the lives of many others. Too often, we talk ourselves out of God's best. We allow doubts, fears, and discouraging things people have said and convince us to settle where we are. Negative voices always speak the lies. That's why I entitled this book, You Can, You Will. You have what it takes to win. You're talented enough, you're smart enough, you're experienced enough, you have the right personality, the right looks, the right nationality. It didn't get shortchanged. Lacking, you're fully equipped. You're the man or woman for the job. This is your time. This is your moment. Put your shoulders back. Hold your head up high. Walk with confidence. Winning is in your DNA, and it's about to come out in a greater way. You may have had some victories in your past, but you haven't seen anything yet. As you put these principles into action, you'll step into a new level of your destiny. You will discover talents that you didn't know you had, and you will see God's blessing and favor in amazing ways. Get ready. You can. You will. Chapter 1. being an actor. But in the early 1980s, he wasn't way over your head. God was. Chapter 1. Keep your vision in front of you. A young man dreamed of being an actor. In the early 1980s, he wasn't getting the big parts he wanted. Broke and discouraged, he drove his beat-up old car to the top of a hill overlooking the city of Los Angeles. Did something unusual. He wrote himself a check, $10 million for acting services rendered. This young man had grown up so poor, his family lived in a Volkswagen van at one time. He put that check in his wallet and kept it there. When things got tough, he'd pull it out and look at it to remind himself of his dream. A dozen years later, that same young man, the comedian Jim Carrey, was making $15 million to $25 million a movie. Studies tell us that we move toward what we constantly see. You should keep something in front of you, even if it's symbolic, to remind you of what you're believing for. A businessman I met had a goal to build a new office for his company. He bought a brick, the same type of brick he wanted to use on his building. He keeps that brick. Every time he sees it, he's moving toward his goal. It reminds him of what he's dreaming about. If you're single and you want to get married, put an empty photo album on your table. That's where you're going to put your wedding photos. When you see it, you're moving toward it. You may not be reaching your highest potential, not because you don't have the faith, the talent, or the determination, but because you're not keeping the right things in front of you. All over your house, you should have pictures that inspire you, scripture verses that encourage you, mementos that strengthen your faith. Maybe one of them is a key on your key ring for the new house you want to buy. If somebody asks, what's this extra key for? Just say, the house that's on the way. In the scripture, Zerubbabel wanted to rebuild the temple. He laid a foundation, but then the people came against him and made him stop. For 10 years, no work was done. One day, the prophet Zechariah came by and told him to do something interesting. He said, go get the headstone. The headstone was the stone reserved to be the last piece of stone that went into the building. It was symbolic. It represented the finished product. Why was it important for Zerubbabel to keep the headstone in front of him? Because every time he looked at that headstone, it was a reminder that God would finish what he started. When Zerubbabel was discouraged, when he was tired and thought it was impossible to finish the job, he would go over and look at the headstone. That was God saying to him, I'm in control. To bring it to pass, just stay in faith. Let me ask you, do you have your headstone in front of you? Do you have something that represents the final piece to your dream? My brother-in-law, Kevin, is a twin. Growing up, he loved having a twin sister. His dream was always to have twins. He and my sister Lisa tried to have a baby for a long time with no success. Lisa went through all the fertility treatments, including several surgeries, but still nothing. They were very discouraged. It didn't look like it would ever happen. One day, Kevin went out to get the mail. There was a small package in
Hi,
the
Ross's channel.
The return address said
Hello.
it had come from Huggies. They hadn't ordered anything from Huggies. He opened
Hello
it up,
po,
and
Ross's
there were some
channel.
diapers in it. They were sending out
Welcome
samples
to
of
my
their diapers
LS.
as part of a promotion. Kevin could have thrown the package away. These, we don't have any children. Those two diapers, something came alive inside. He took that as a sign from God. That was his headstone. He ran in and told Lisa, we just got the first diaper for our baby. He wrote the date on those diapers and placed them on his desk at home. Month after month, he would see those diapers in the morning before work, in the afternoon after coming home, and in the evening before he went to bed. When you see something long enough, it gets into your subconscious mind, drops down into your spirit. That's when you know that you know it's going to happen. Several years later, Kevin and Lisa received a phone call out of the blue asking if they would be interested in adopting a baby. They said, yes, we would. The lady said, how about adopting two? Twin girls who were to be born. Today, Kevin and Lisa have their twins. They're teenagers now and as beautiful as can be. Are you believing for a child? Go buy a baby's outfit. Hang it in your closet where you can see it every day. Keep your vision in front of you. A friend of mine who wanted a child decorated her whole baby's room, bought the bed, the stroller, spent all this time, money, and energy. Friends thought she was a little far out, preparing a baby's room with no baby in the way. But she understood this principle. What you keep in front of you, you are moving toward. Went by and still no baby. 2 years, no baby. 5 years, 10 years. She didn't get discouraged. She kept thanking God that her baby was on the way. Through the day, when she had walked by that baby's room, the seed was growing. Didn't look like anything was happening, but she was moving toward it. 20 years later, she had not one baby, but 2. The stroller didn't work. The bed was out of date. She didn't care. She had her baby. Something you see every day that reminds you of what you're believing for, that inspires you, ignites your faith. Proverbs says, where there is no vision, the people perish. With no vision, you'll get stuck. That's why many people have lost their passion. They don't have anything that reminds them of what they're dreaming about. You're believing to move into a nicer house, find a picture of a house. Put it on your bathroom mirror. Let that seed get into you. You're believing to get into a college, go buy the school's t-shirt. Put the coffee mug with their logo on your counter. Every time you see that picture, t-shirt, that baby's outfit, say under your breath, thank you, Lord, for bringing my dreams to pass. Lord, that I'll become everything you've created me to be. I learned this from my father. He and my mother started Lakewood Church in 1959 in an old, rundown feed store. They had 90 people. You know what my father called the church? Lakewood International Outreach Center. There was a big blue sign. The sign cost more than the building. The truth is, they weren't an international outreach. They were a small neighborhood church, many people. But every time my father drove up to the church and saw the sign, his vision was being increased. He was moving toward it. When the 90 members saw the sign week after week, something was being birthed on the inside. Seeds of increase were taking root. You know what Lakewood is today? It's an international outreach center touching the world. Growing up, my father always kept a globe on his desk at home. There was a big world map on the wall. He put a globe behind him when he spoke. He always had the world on his mind. One year at the conference, people came from 150 countries. It looked like the United Nations. What you keep in front of you, you're moving toward. Now, don't just have a little vision. You're not inconveniencing God by believing big. In fact, it's just the opposite. When you believe to do great things, when you believe to set a new standard in your family, it pleases God. Take the limits off and say, I don't see a way, but God, I know you have a way. So I'm going to believe to have these twins. I'm going to believe to start a business. I'm going to believe that my whole family will serve you. I'm going to believe to get totally well. When you release your faith in a big way, it pleases God. My father could have put on a sign that said Lakewood Community Church. Nothing wrong with that, but God had put something bigger in his heart. He could have looked at the circumstances, thought we're just 90 people. We don't have a lot of money. We don't have a nice building. We'll never do anything great. If he had done that, it wouldn't be such a big church today. It doesn't matter what it looks like in the natural. God is a supernatural God. He's not limited by your resources, by your environment, by your education, by your nationality. If you'll have a big vision, God will not only do what you're dreaming about, but he'll do more than you can ask or think. A few years after my father went to be with the Lord and I stepped up to pastor the church, I had a desire to write a book. My dad had written many books. They were all translated into Spanish. On the bookshelf, I walked by at home every day. I had 2 copies of my dad's most popular book. One was in English, the other was in Spanish. I kept those books in front of me, knowing one day at the right time I would write a book. My dream was that it too would be translated into Spanish. In my mind, this seemed so far out. I never thought I could get up and minister, much less write a book. This was stretching my faith. A year went by, no book. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Would have been easy to lose my passion and think it's never going to happen. I had my father's books. To get to the other part of the house, I had to go right back and still thousands of times. I didn't always consciously think about this, but even subconsciously, I was moving toward my own. My faith was being released. Something on the inside was saying, yes, one day I'm going to write a book. 2004, I wrote my first book, Now. When the publisher read the manuscript, they decided to publish it in English and Spanish at the same time. Normally they wait to see if anybody buys it. That's the way God is. His dream for your life is much bigger than your own. I found whatever your vision is, God will supersize. He'll do more than you can ask. My vision was that my book would be so well received, it would be translated. But it was also translated into French, German, Russian, Portuguese, and more than 40 others. You'll keep your vision in front of you. Not get talked out of it. Honoring God, being your best, thanking Him that it's on the way. God will supersize whatever you believe for. He'll do exceedingly abundantly above and beyond. I saw an article in the paper several years ago about a man who gave a university $100 million. I cut the article out on my desk. Every time I see it, I say, God, you did it for a university, you can do it for a ministry. I've got a big vision. We can reach a lot of people with an extra 100 million. If you can accomplish your dreams in your own strength, your own talent, ability, and resources, then your dreams are small. You don't need God's help with small dreams. Believe big. Your destiny is great. Your assignment too important to have little goals, little dreams, little prayers. Keep big things in front of you. A friend of mine feeds 1 million children. He and his wife support orphanages and feeding programs. 1 million kids every day. That's what I keep in front of me. God, you did it for them. You can do it for us. Let our family impact millions of children. In our kitchen at home, we have pictures of some of the children we sponsor through our partner, World Vision. Every time we eat dinner, every time we pass by, we say, God, let us make a bigger difference. We're moving toward it. You may say, Joel, well, I can't even imagine that happening to me. I can't imagine being that blessed. Don't worry, you won't be. If you don't have a vision for it, it's not going to happen. Without a vision, you won't see God's best. I know some things do seem more unlikely, but don't ever say, I can't imagine that. You see somebody really fit and energetic, you may think, I can't imagine looking like that. You may drive by a nice house and think, I can't imagine living in this neighborhood. Have you ever thought, I can't imagine publishing a book? I can't imagine owning my own business. Imagine being that successful. I'm telling you, you can and you will. The problem is you're being limited by your own imagination. You've got to change what you're seeing. Don't let negative thoughts. Use your imagination to see yourself accomplishing your dream, rising higher, overcoming obstacles, healthy, strong, blessed, and prosperous. I don't say this arrogantly, but I can imagine my books being published in every language. I can imagine somebody handing us that $100 million check. I can imagine us feeding 1 million children a day. I can imagine living a long, healthy, blessed life. I can imagine my children superseding anything we've done. Not only that, I can imagine you fulfilling your dreams. I can imagine you totally out of debt. I can imagine you healthy and strong. I can imagine you leading your company. I can imagine you blessing the world, being a history maker, setting a new standard for your family. Now, I'm asking you to not only have it in your imagination, keep something in front of you that reminds you. man I know works in the oil business. He started his company with just himself and one assistant. Grew and grew. He's always at our services, honoring God, giving, serving, helping others. His company specializes in drilling for oil. He provides the crew and the equipment. He was spending all of his time traveling around checking on the different sites. One day he saw a competitor's employees boarding their own plane. They were doing what he did in a fraction of the time. God dropped that in his heart. One day he could have an airplane. So far out for him. He came from a family that lived paycheck to paycheck, barely getting by. He'd already broken out of the mold. When his family members heard him talk about having an airplane, they thought he had lost his mind. They couldn't imagine it, but he could. Sometimes your family will not be your biggest cheerleader. They may not encourage you. You better listen to what God's telling you and not what other people may tell you. People may try to talk you out of the dream through your heart. My friend went out and bought a model of the airplane he wanted and put it on his desk. People would come to his office and ask, "What's that plane for?" He would tell them, "That's my airplane. That's what I'm going to use to travel the country." Year after year, he kept that plane in front of him. One day, the competitor that he'd seen flying around walked in his office. The older gentleman said, "I'm retiring and would like to sell you my airplane." This man had a big, beautiful plane that could seat 12 people. My friend couldn't afford it. He was hoping to buy a little used two-seater plane. He said, "I appreciate the offer, but I don't have those kinds of funds." The competitor said, "Sure you do. To put any money down, just take over my monthly payments and you can have the plane." My friend got that big, beautiful plane for a fraction of the value. And today he flies all over the world. His company has taken off. He said, "Joel, God has done more than I could ever imagine." When you keep your vision in front of you, that's your faith being released. That's why the scripture uses such strong language when it says people perish for lack of vision. It means dreams die when you don't have a vision. You can't see what God's put in your heart, then you'll miss the incredible things God wants to do. Now, you may not need an airplane, but you may need to lose 30 pounds. Why don't you put a picture of yourself up 30 pounds lighter on your bathroom mirror every day when you see it? Don't get depressed. Think, "I wish I still looked like that. I wish I could still fit into that dress." No, instead, say, "Lord, thank you that I'm losing this weight. I'm healthy, whole, strong, in shape, energetic." Let that new image take root. You may not be healthy today, but you need to keep something in front of you that says you're going to be healthy. Put up pictures of yourself when you are healthy and strong all over your house. Put up scripture verses. Plan to take some trips to see your family. Check on that gym that you want to join. Don't you dare plan on dying. We need you. Plan on living. Keep the right vision in front of you. You can, you will. In the scripture, God promised Abraham he would be the father of many nations. In the natural, it was impossible. Abraham didn't have one child. He was 80 years old, but God didn't just give him the promise. God gave him a picture to look at. God said, "Abraham, go out and look at the stars. How many descendants you will have?" I've read where there are 6,000 stars in the eastern sky where you are. It's not a coincidence that there are 6,000 promises. God was saying, every promise that you can get a vision for, I will bring it to pass. God told him also to look at the grains of sand at the seashore, because that's how many relatives he would have. Why did God give him a picture? God knew there would be times when it would look as if the promise would not come to pass. Abraham would be discouraged and tempted to give up. In those times, Abraham would go out at night and look up at the sky. When he saw the stars, faith would rise in his heart. Something would tell him it's going to happen. I can see it. In the morning, when his thoughts told him, "You're too old. It's too late. You heard God wrong," he would go down to the beach and look at the grains of sand. Like Abraham, There will be times when it seems as if your dreams are not coming to pass. So long, medical work look good, you don't have the resources, business is slow, you could easily give up. But like Abraham, you've got to go back to keep that vision in front of you. When you see the key to your new house, the outfit for your baby, the tennis shoes for when you're healthy, the picture frame for your spouse, the article inspiring you to build the orphanage, pictures of what you're dreaming about will keep you encouraged. God is saying to you what he said to Abraham. If you can see it, then I can do it. If you have a vision for it, then I can make a way. Open up new doors. I can bring the right people. I can give you the finances. I can break the chains that are holding you back. I read about a man named Conrad Hilton. He was the founder of the Hilton Hotels. As a young man back in the 1930s, he saw an article about the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City. The title of the article said it was the most famous hotel in the world. The article included big, beautiful pictures. He'd never seen anything like it. It was so grand, so magnificent. As he was reading the article, God put the dream in his heart. They owned that hotel. In the natural, it didn't seem possible. He could barely pay his rent. He didn't have any connections. The depression was just ending. Conrad Hilton could have said, God, you have the wrong person. Instead, he dared to let the seed grow. He cut out the picture of the big, beautiful Waldorf and put it under the glass on his desk. Every day he would see that picture for 1 year, years, 5 years, 10 years. It didn't look like his dream would happen, but he kept that vision in front of him. When he went to New York City, he walked around the Waldorf and prayed. He thanked God that it was his. He didn't tell anyone, he just let the dream take root. 18 years later, his company was able to purchase nearly 250,000 shares of the Waldorf Corporation. And with that deal, he owned the most famous hotel in the world. Friends, what you keep in front of you, you're moving toward. You may think it's too late, your dreams are too big, your obstacles are too difficult, but God is still on the throne. He still has a way to bring you to pass. Just like with Mr. Hilton, God can do something big in your life. He will release his favor in a new way. What you thought was over and done is still going to happen. When it looks impossible, like it's way over your head, God will suddenly cause things to fall into place. Favor, influence, and goodness. Don't stop believing. Every time you see your vision, you're moving toward it. God that is on the way. If you'll do this, God will supervise what you're dreaming about. He will take you further, faster, opening doors that no man can shut, doing what medicine cannot do. I believe and declare every dream, every promise, every goal God put in your heart will. Chapter 2, Run Your Race. There will always be people who try to squeeze you into their molds and pressure you into being what they want you to be. They may be good people. They may mean well, but the problem is they didn't breathe life into you. They didn't equip you or empower you. God did. If you're going to become the winner you were created to be, you have to have a boldness. The second quality of a winner is that you run your race the way you want to run it. You can't be insecure. You can't worry about what everyone thinks. You can't try to keep everybody happy. If you change with every criticism, people trying to win their favor, you'll go through life letting people manipulate you and pressure you into their box. You have to accept the fact that you can't keep everyone happy. You can't make everyone like you. You will never win over every critic. Even if you changed and did everything they asked, someone will find fault. You're not really free until you're free from trying to please everyone. You're respectful, you're kind, but you're not living to please people. You're living to please God. Every morning when you get up, you should search your heart. Know down deep that you're being true to who God called you to be. Then you won't have to look to the left or to the right, focused on your goals. If people don't understand you, that's okay. If some get upset because you don't fit into their mold, don't worry about it. If you lose a friend because you won't let that person control you, you didn't need them anyway, because that person wasn't. If people talk about you, being jealous, critical, trying to make you look bad, don't let that change you. You don't need their approval. You have God's approval. If you will get free from what everyone else thinks, start being who you were created to be, you will rise to a level. We spend too much time trying to impress people, trying to gain their approval, wondering what they're going to think if we take this job, wear this new outfit, or move into this new neighborhood. Instead of running our race, we often make decisions based on superficial things. I heard somebody say, at 20 years old, we wonder what everybody thinks about us. At 40 years old, we don't care what anybody thinks about us. At 60 years old, we realize about us. I read an interesting report from a nurse who takes care of people close to death. She asked hundreds of patients facing death what their biggest regrets were. The number one regret was, I wish I had just been true to who I was and not just lived to meet the expectations of others. How many people today are not being true to who they are because they're afraid they may disappoint someone? They may fall out of their good graces, or they may not be accepted. I say this respectfully, but you can't live the life God wanted for you trying to be who your parents want you to be, who your friends want you to be, or who your boss wants you to be. You have to be true to who God made you to be. When my father went to be with the Lord, I had to accept the fact that the purpose for my life was different from my father. His calling was to help bring down the denominational walls between churches. He went around the world telling people about the fullness of the Spirit. When I took over, I felt this pressure to be like my father, to fit into his mold. I thought I had to minister like him, run the church like him, go down the same road. But when I searched my heart, deep down, I knew my calling was to plant a seed of hope, to encourage people, to let them know about the goodness of God. It was a struggle because I loved my father. Some people had been at the church for 40 years. I thought, I can't be anything. What would people think? They may not accept me. They may not like me. One day I read a scripture about David. David fulfilled God's purpose for his generation. I heard God say in my heart, Joel, your dad fulfilled his purpose. Trying to be like him and go out and fulfill your purpose. When I heard that, it was as if a light turned on. I realized I don't have to be like my father. I don't have to fit into a certain mold. It's okay to run my race. I am free to be me. After all, God doesn't want you to be an imitation of someone else. You should be the original you were created to be. There is an anointing on your life, an empowerment not to be somebody else. If you let people squeeze you into their molds and out of their pressure, trying to please your critics, it not only takes away your uniqueness, but it also lessens the favor of your life. As our church started growing, more and more people started watching. The critics came out of the woodwork. People were saying, he's not like his father. He doesn't have the experience. He's too young. Even now, some say, he's too much of this, not enough of that. If you change with every criticism, you won't have a chance. One reason God has promoted me is because I tuned out negative voices. I'm my best to stay true to who I don't look to the left or to the right. I run my race. I don't try to compete with anyone else. I don't let people control me, go around feeling guilty because I don't fit into their box. I don't get upset because something negative is said about me. I look straight ahead. As the Apostle Paul said, I run with purpose in every step. I learned early on that to please God, I may have to disappoint a few people. There were several members who had been with the church for a long time, friends of our family for years, who were upset. I wasn't exactly like my father. I wouldn't let them squeeze me into their mold, so they left the church. That was difficult for me. I wanted their approval. But looking back now, I realized had I let them pressure me into being who they wanted me to be, I wouldn't be standing here today. The scripture talks about those who love the praise of people more than they love the praise of God. One of the tests we all have to pass is when someone in our lives that we respect and look up to, a boss, a friend, a relative, wants us to go one direction, and we know in our hearts that we should take another. We don't want to hurt their feelings. We don't want to lose their friendship. We want their approval. But if we are to fulfill our destinies, we have to be strong. We have to have this attitude. I want the praise of God more than the praise of people. An assignment. I have a purpose. I will become who God created me. I've learned if you please God, stay true to what He's put in your heart, eventually you will have the praise of people. His favor, His anointing, His blessing will cause you to excel. You may lose a few friends. People may not understand why you don't take their advice. They may think you're making a big mistake. But later, they'll see you walking in the fullness of your destiny. You will see new opportunities, new relationships. God's favor on your life will increase if you'll quit worrying about what everyone thinks. Do what God puts in your heart. Everyone has an opinion. People will run your life. They'll have opinions on what you should wear, what you should drive, how you should spend your money, how you should raise your children. If you try to please everyone, I can guarantee you one thing 100%. You'll be confused, you'll be frustrated, life will be. I live by this motto. Everyone has a right to an opinion, and I have every right not to listen to it. If what others say doesn't match what God has put in your heart, let it go in one ear and out the other. I heard about this man who fell into a pit. While he was down there, several people came by and offered their opinions. The Pharisees said, "You deserve to be in the pit." The Catholics said, "You need to suffer while you're in the pit." The Baptist said, "If you'd been saved, you wouldn't have fallen into the pit." The Charismatic said, "Just confess I'm not in the pit." The mathematician said, "Let me calculate how you fell into the pit." The IRS agent said, "Have you paid taxes on that pit?" The optimist said, "Things could be worse." The pessimist said, "Things will get worse." Everyone has an opinion. If you try to keep every person happy, the one person that will not be happy is you. Sometimes those who try to run your life, tell you what to do, can't even run their own lives, much less yours. It's fine to listen to opinions. It's great to receive advice, but you have to be secure enough in who God made you to be that when something doesn't bear witness with your spirit, you'll have a boldness to say, "Thanks, but no thanks. Appreciate your advice. I value your opinion, but that's not for me." You have to be aware, especially of high maintenance people. These people are almost impossible to keep. You've got to call them on schedule, keep them cheered up, run their errands, meet their demands. If not, they're upset, disappointed. They'll do their best to make sure you feel guilty. High maintenance people are almost always controlled. If you're not careful, they'll squeeze you into their mold. They're not interested in you. They're interested in what you can do for them. If you fall into the trap of always trying to please them, you will wear yourself out and constantly be frustrated. Years ago, I went out of my way to help people who were friends. They'd moved to another city. I gave them money to help them move. I called and checked on them. If they needed anything, I was always available. Even so, I got the feeling from them that I was never doing enough. They were never satisfied. They always had a complaint. I had gone out of my way to be kind and generous, but they were constantly finding fault to make me feel guilty. One day I realized they were just high maintenance people, and I wasn't responsible for making them happy. I couldn't make them decide to like me. I had to run my race and not let that steal my joy. That was a great day in my life. Your time is too valuable to worry about pleasing everyone else or making them happy. I know people who spend more time worrying about what others think about them than they do focusing on their own dreams and goals. You gotta get free from that. If you're going to do anything great in life, if you're going to be a great teacher, a great businessman, a great parent, a great winner, not everyone will cheer you on. I would love to tell you that all of your family, friends, co-workers will celebrate you, but unfortunately, that's not the case. Some people won't be able to handle your success. If you were where you were 10 years ago, they would have no problem with you. But as you succeed, as God pours out his favor, some will be jealous. Some will find fault. Don't be surprised if a family member, a relative tries to discredit you, belittle you, won't give you the time of day. Or maybe a friend you've been good to for years won't understand you. Let that bounce off of you like water off of a duck's back. If you don't, then you'll start changing, being defensive, thinking that you've got to prove to them that you're really okay. What you're doing is letting them squeeze you into their mold. Your destiny is too great to win people over who are never going to like you. Don't take it personally. It's not about you. It's about the favor God put on your life. It stirs up the jealousy in them. Until they deal with it, nothing you can do. You might as well shake it off and run your race. No matter how good you are to them, they will still find fault. No matter how much you try to show them kindness, they will still find some reason to be critical. It's like this country grandfather I heard about who took his grandson to town on a donkey. He started off letting his grandson ride the donkey as he walked alongside. Somebody passed by and said, "Look at that selfish boy, making the old man walk." Grandfather heard him, took the boy off. Then he rode the donkey as his grandson walked by his side. Somebody came along and said, "Look at that man making the little boy walk while he rides." Hearing that, the grandfather pulled the little boy up with him, and they both started riding the donkey. In a few minutes, another person said, "How cruel of you and the boy to place such a heavy load on the donkey." By the time they got to town, the grandfather and grandson were carrying the donkey. The point is, no matter what you do, you will never please everybody. You have to accept the fact that even when you do your best, some will find fault with you. Okay, they have a right to have their opinions, and you have a right to ignore them. Too many people sacrifice their own happiness to keep someone else happy. They've got to stop by their friend's house and say hello because they don't want to upset the friend. They stay late at night in the office because if they don't, their boss may be unhappy. They've got to loan this friend money because the friend is in trouble again. If they don't meet all the demands, fix this person, rescue this person, solve this person's problem, then they'll fall out of somebody's good grace. Somebody won't understand and get upset. But God did not call you to keep everyone happy. It's good to be loving, kind, generous, but you are not responsible for the happiness of others. You are responsible for your own happiness. You may feel like if you don't meet all their demands, all their needs, if you don't rescue them, loan them money, then they'll be angry with you. If that's the case, maybe it's time for them to be happy instead of you. If they get mad, they're not really friends, they're manipulators. They're using you. Your time is too valuable to go through life letting people control you and make you feel guilty if you don't come running every time they call. The easy thing is to just give in and keep bailing them out so you don't make any waves. But as long as you rescue them and you're there to cheer them up, keep them all fixed up, you're not really helping them, you're a crutch. Because of you, they don't have to deal with the real issue. You're enabling function. The only way they'll get the help they need is for you to stop being their crutch. Don't come running every time they have an emergency. Put your foot down and say, "I love you, but I'm not going to let you control me. I love you, but I'm not jumping every time you call. I love you, but I refuse to feel guilty or meet all your demands." If people are controlling you, it's not their fault. It's your fault. You have to set some boundaries. Quit allowing them to call you all hours of the day and dump their problems on you. That's why we have voicemail. Quit caving into them every time they throw a fit. Ignore it. Quit loaning them money every time they make poor choices. Take on a false sense of responsibility. You are not the savior of the world. We already have a savior. You're not supposed to keep everyone happy and fixed. If you take on that job, one person that will not be happy. Years ago, I knew this man that was always having problems paying his rent. My heart went out to him. I helped him again and again. Every other month, he would claim that something had come up and kept making his payment. After about the 5th emergency request for rent money, I started to wise up. He told me a client hadn't paid him. He told me the check was in the mail but hadn't arrived. He also claimed a relative had become sick. He'd been called out of town. His excuses went on and on. At the end of another long, sad story, he said, "Now, what are we going to do?" I thought, we're not going to do anything because this is not my problem. This is your problem. I'm not going to feel guilty because you keep making poor choices. I believe I'd still be helping him today, 5 years later, if I had not put my foot down. When you refuse to keep helping people like that, you force them to look inside and take responsibility. A lot of times we do things out of guilt because we think we'll feel bad if we don't help overly dependent or manipulative people. But if they're not taking responsibility for their own lives, you're not helping them, you're hurting them. They need to deal with their own issues like most people. Back away, it will force them to change. I've learned that some people are always having a crisis. Every day they have an emergency, desperate need of something. It's good to help people who are in real need. But if someone comes to you a dozen times, year after year, seems like the emergencies never stop, you need to recognize that's a manipulator. It's like they have you as their puppet. They know if they pull this one string, you'll feel guilty. Another string, you'll bail them out. Or another, and you'll stay late and work for them. If someone is playing you like a puppet, it's time to cut the strings. No more letting them make you feel guilty. No more will you come running. You may feel you'll lose their friendship if you refuse to help them, but that feeling is your wake-up call. God just met your need. He just closed that door for you. The truth is, if someone becomes upset, you won't meet those unreasonable demands, that person is not your friend. That person is a manipulator. The sooner you break free, the better off you'll be. Are you doing too much for other people and not enough for yourself? Are you so good-hearted that you're sacrificing your happiness to keep everyone around you happy? Understand, your first priority is to keep yourself happy. If you are giving all the time and not receiving anything in return, then you need to examine your relationships. A balance. You shouldn't have to constantly meet the demands of your friends out of fear of being rejected by them. You should be able to tell them no without feeling guilty. They give you the cold shoulder and won't speak to you, then they're not really friends, they're manipulated. The sooner you make a change, the better off you will be. Don't waste 20 years playing up to people, trying to meet all their demands, when the truth is they're not interested in you. They're interested in what you can do for them. The best thing you can do is cut the puppet. You don't have time to play games, get entangled, become distracted trying to keep everybody happy. You have a destiny to fulfill. Bold, take charge of your life. Pursue the dreams that God has placed in your heart. When I was growing up, my grandfather would buy a new car every few years. Car to one of us grandchildren. He was very generous. My junior year, he gave me his Buick LeSabre. A friend of mine on the basketball team had a car as well. We decided to carpool. Pick him up for school one week. He lived 15 minutes in the opposite direction of the school. I'd have to go get him and come all the way back. I didn't mind. I drove one week, he drove the next. We did this for a month or so, no problems. But then his car broke down one week, so I had to drive again. I had to take another of his weeks because his brother needed the car. Then something else came up and he missed another turn. It got to where I was driving all the time. I really didn't mind, but he wasn't very grateful. He acted like I owed him. One day I got my nerve and asked if he was ever planning on driving again. He told how he was trying to keep the mileage down on his car, basically that I needed to keep picking him up. He acted like he was doing me a favor with him riding my car. I did what I'm asking you to do. I kept a big smile and told him very politely I wasn't going to be able to come get him anymore. You would have thought I told him his life was ending. He gave me the biggest guilt trip, tried to make me feel like I was such a selfish person. He hardly spoke to me after that. I thought, that's fine with me. If you're only my friend, if I meet your demands and cater to your every need, then good riddance. I don't need friends like that. Go find somebody else to control because you're not controlling me. I don't mind being good to people, but I do mind if you allow it, people will run your life. They'll tell you what to do, where to go, how to dress, how to spend your money. It's good to get free from addictions, from anxiety, free from depression, but one of the greatest freedoms, free from control. Quit letting others pressure you into being something that you're not. Quit living on eggshells because you don't want to fall out of their favor. Quit feeling afraid that if you don't perform perfectly, all on cue, come running when they ask, they'll be upset. Here's my message. Let them be upset. If you spend your life trying to please everyone and letting them control you, they may be happy, but you'll end up missing your destiny. I would rather please God and have some people upset with me than please people and have God upset with me. A pilot friend of mine told me there are four main principles of flying airplanes: lift, thrust, weight, and drag. You have to take all these into account to make sure the plane will fly. It struck me that these same principles apply to specific types of people who lift you, brighten your day, cheer you up, make you feel better about yourself. You meet them and have a spring in your step. They're a lift. Then there are people who thrust you. They inspire you, motivate you, challenge you to move forward and pursue your dreams. The third group, they pull you down, dump their problems on you so that you leave feeling heavy, negative, discouraged, worse than you did before. Finally, there are those who are a drag. They've always got a sad song. The dishwasher broke, the goldfish died, they didn't get invited to the party, they're stuck in a pit. They expect you to cheer them up, fix their problems, carry their load. We all encounter people from each of these four groups. You have to make sure you're spending the majority of your time with lifters, thrusters. If you're only hanging out with weights and drags, it will keep you from becoming everything you were created to be. Some people have a perpetual problem. They always have a sad song. If you allow them, they'll use you as a trash can to dump all their garbage in. You spend an hour with them, you feel like you've run a marathon. They're energy suckers. You leave them feeling drained and worn out. You cannot continue to deal with them day after day if you expect to reach your highest potential. You won't lift off. You won't thrust forward into the good things God has in store if you're weighted down, letting people dump their load on you. They'll make you discouraged and sap your energy. It's hard enough just to keep yourself cheered up. You're not responsible for their happiness. Sure, there are times when we need to sow a seed, have a listening ear, take time to love people back into wholeness. That should be for a season, not for an ongoing drama. You shouldn't have to spend every day listening to friends complain about their spouses or neighbors. You shouldn't have to lift them out of the dumps all the time. If you do, your life will be like an episode of Guiding Light, Jersey Shore, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, all put together. You have enough drama in your life without listening to everyone else's drama. You can't allow someone to put all that negativity into you day after day and expect. You need to evaluate the people you're spending time with. Are they lifters and encouragers? Do they make you feel better? Do you leave their company feeling inspired and happier, or are they dragging you down, making you feel drained, energy? When I was in my early 20s, this young lady cut my hair. She was as nice as could be. She had a good heart, but she was so negative. Every time I went, she told me all of her problems. This went on month after month, year after year. She claimed the shop owners weren't treating her right. They made her work long hours. She had a sister that was causing her problems. She didn't know if she could pay her rent. Her father wasn't doing well, on and on. Every time I left her shop, I felt depressed. It was very convincing. I did my best to encourage her, prayed with her. I gave her money. I sent her customers, but it was never enough. One day I realized what I'm telling you. I cannot get to where I'm going with her in my life. I love her. I'll pray for her, but I cannot fulfill my destiny with that weight on me month after month. I made a change. It was difficult. I don't like to hurt feelings, but I realized my assignment is too important. My time is too valuable to let people continually pull me down. You may have to make changes where you do business, where you play ball, where you work out. You may have to change the phone call you take. You shouldn't spend an hour on the phone every night listening to somebody's woes or hearing their sad songs. Put an end to it. Be kind, be respectful, but you don't need that weight on you. You need to be around lifters, thrusters, people that inspire you, people that motivate you. That's why so many are drawn to our ministry. There are enough weights, enough drags. I'm going to push you forward. Get around me. I'm going to lift you, encourage you, inspire you. I'm going to do my best to lead you back to where before. You may work around people who are a drag. You don't have a choice. Or maybe you go to school with people who are away. They're negative and sour. Here's the key. Before you leave home, prayed up, praised up, encouraged. Set your mind that it's going to be a great day. You can't go into that negative environment. You've got to go into it already encouraged. Go with your guard down, stressed out from the traffic, worried about the deadline, or listening to depressing news reports. If you're not on the offensive, then the weights, drags. Maybe you've got a 20-minute drive on the way to work or school. Go on some good praise music. Get your spirit man build up. Build up a grateful. Thank God for what He's done. Put on a good DVD, something that inspires and motivates you. Talk to yourself the right way. It's going to be a great day. Strong in the Lord. I've got the favor of God. I can do all things through Christ. Something good is going to happen to me. That's how you'll stay strong and not let the weights and drags pull you down. Build up a resistance. What happens if you live with someone that's a weight? Perhaps you're married to a weight or a drag. Getting real. You've got to do the same thing. Take extra doses of praise, encouragement, and stay filled up. While they're changing, don't let them do. Some people don't want to be happy. With them is like living in the pits. You've got to have the attitude. If you don't want to be happy, that's fine. But you're want to stay in the pits. Take responsibility. Don't let their issues sour. Pray for them. Be respectful. Don't become codependent. Don't let their problems become your problems. Don't let them keep you. It's time to break free. Is there something keeping you from being happy? Are you allowing somebody to control and make you feel guilty? Their demands become extremes. Set some boundaries. Don't miss your destiny trying to please everyone. God didn't call you to be unhappy. He doesn't want you to waste your life trying to keep somebody else happy. Be kind, be compassionate, and run your own ways. Remember, you don't need anyone else's approval. You have God's approval. Be secure enough in who you are that you don't live to please people. As long as you're doing what God has put in your heart, you don't need to look to the left nor to the right. Stay focused on your goals, and God will get you to where you're supposed to be. Chapter 3. Expect good things. Our expectations set the limit for our life. If you expect little, you will receive little. If you don't anticipate things to get better, then they won't. But if you expect more favor, more good breaks, a promotion, increase, then you will see new levels of success. Every morning when you wake up, you should declare something good is going to happen to me today. You have to set the tone at the beginning of each day. Then all through the day, you should have this attitude of expectancy. Like a little child waiting to open a gift. You should be on the lookout. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. Not passive, but actively expecting. Too many people drag around thinking, nothing good ever happens to me. Instead, start looking for good breaks. Expect to be at the right place at the right time. Expect your dream to pass. Don't walk into a room anticipating people like you. Don't go to the store believing that you won't find what you need. Don't interview for a job assuming not to get it. Your expectation is your world. When you anticipate good breaks, expecting people to like you, expecting to have a great year, then you're releasing your faith. That's what allows good things to happen. But your expectations work in both directions. If you get up in the morning and expect it to be a lousy day, expect no breaks, expect people to be unfriendly, then you'll draw that in. Your faith is working. The problem is you're using it in the wrong direction. A young person told me he was concerned about taking his final exam. He had studied and prepared, but he was very worried because every time he took an important test, he stressed out and couldn't remember what he had studied. He always ended up doing poorly. He asked, Joel, would you pray for me? Because I know it's going to happen again. He was already expecting to fail. I shared this principle with him. Told him he was anticipating the wrong things. I said, you've got to change your expectations. All through the day, say to yourself, I'm going to do great on this. I'm going to remember everything that I've studied. I'm going to stay calm and he came back a few weeks later. It was the best he had ever done on one of his. Let me ask you, what do you expect? Big things, little things, or nothing at all? It's easy to anticipate the worry, but if you'll switch over into faith and expect the best, fail to accomplish your dreams, then you'll draw in blessings and favor. Some people have had a negative mindset so long, they don't realize they're doing it. It's just natural to them. They assume the worst, expect people to be unfriendly, and people usually are. I know a lady who has been through a lot of negative things in her life. It was like she was on autopilot. She expected people to hurt her, and they usually did. She expected people to be dishonest, and they usually were. She expected to get laid off from her job. Her expectations were drawing in all the negative. One day she learned this principle and started expecting different things. Waited for the best instead of the worst. She expected to get good breaks. She expected people to like her. Today it's totally turned around. She's living a victorious life. You may have had disappointments and unfair situations, but don't make the mistake of living in a negative frame of mind. Instead of expecting more of the same, start expecting it to turn around. Don't think you'll barely get by. Know that you will excel. Don't expect to be overcome. Expect to be overcome. Not always feel like it. You need to remind yourself you are more than a conqueror. Your greatest victories are still out in front of you. The right opportunities, the wrong breaks, they are all expecting business, for my health to improve. Expecting to be at the right place at the right time. A young man told me, I don't want to expect too much. That way, if it doesn't happen, I won't go to bed all disappointed. That's no way to live. You're not expecting increase, promotion, good breaks. You're not releasing your faith. Faith is what causes God to act. If you expect a break and it doesn't happen, go to bed disappointed. Go to bed knowing you're one day closer to come to pass. Get up the next morning and do it again. Winners develop this third undeniable quality of expecting good things. You can't can't be in neutral and hope to reach your full potential. It's not enough to not expect anything bad. You have to aggressively expect good things. Are you expecting your dreams to come to pass? Do you expect this year to be better than last year? Are you expecting to live a long, healthy, blessed life? Pay attention to what you're expecting. Maybe you have a desire to get married. Don't go around thinking, I'll never marry anyone. It's been so long, I'm getting too old. Instead, expect to be at the right place at the right time. Believe that divine connections will come across your path. Believe that the right people will be attracted to you. I do this, Joel, and nothing happens. What if you do it and something doesn't happen? I can tell you, nothing will happen if you don't believe. David said in Psalms, surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. In the past, you may have had disappointments and setbacks following you around. You need to let go of what didn't work. Let go of every mistake. Let go of every failure. And start expecting goodness and mercy to follow you every week. It's good to look back sometimes and just say, hey, goodness, hey, mercy, how are you doing back then? Some people don't realize that they're always waiting for the next disaster, looking for the next fail, looking for the next bad day. Change what you're looking for. Look at goodness, favor, increase, promotion. That's what should be following you around. One definition of hope is happy anticipation of something good. You're anticipating something good. It's going to bring you joy. It will give you enthusiasm. You're expecting dreams to come to pass. You'll go out each day with the spring in you. But if you're not anticipating good, then you'll drag through life with no passion. I don't say this arrogantly, but I expect people to learn. Maybe I'm naive. I am, do me a favor and leave me in my ignorance. When I go somewhere, I don't have all these walls. I'm not defensive, insecure, intimidated, thinking they're not going to like me. They're probably talking about me right now. I expect people to believe that when people turn on my television program, they can't turn me on. I believe when people see my hopes and joy, I'm talking about having an attitude of expecting good things. Expect around. Having emphasis on expecting good things. There are new mountains to climb, new horizons to explore. Expect to rise high. Expect to overcome every obstacle. Expect doors to open. Expect favor at work, favor at home, favor at the grocery store, favor in your relationship. When you've been through disappointments, failures, you have to guard your mind. Be careful what you allow to play in your thoughts all day. Your memory is very powerful. You can be driving in your car and remember a tender moment with your child. It may have happened 5 years ago. A hug, a kiss, something. You remember that moment. A smile comes to your face. You feel the same emotion, the same warmth, just as if it were happening again. On the other hand, you could be enjoying the day. It's fine. You start remembering some Saturday where you weren't treated right. Something unfair happened. It's sad. It's cold. What made you sad? Dwelling on the wrong thing. What made you happy? Dwelling on the right thing. Research has found that your mind will naturally gravitate toward positive memories are handled in different parts of the brain. A negative memory takes up more space than you want to process. As a result, you remember negative events more than positive events. The study said that a person will remember losing $50 more than that has a hundreds of people might tell me, this is really have something out of it. We're likely to remember just one person who says, understand it, didn't do anything for me. In the old days, the negative comment would be all I think about. over and over in my mind. That's human nature. How negative memories are stored in our brain. The bad takes up more space than the good. Knowing this, you have to be proactive. When negative memories come back to the movie screen of your mind, many people pull up a chair, get some popcorn, and watch it all over again. They think, I can't believe they hurt me. That was so wrong. Instead, remember this. That's not the only movie playing. There's another channel that is not playing back your defeats, your failures, your disappointments. This channel features your victories, your accomplishments, the things you did right. The good memory channel plays back the times you were promoted. You met the right person. You bought a great house. Your children were happy and healthy. Instead of staying on that negative channel, switch over to you won't move forward into better days if you're always replaying the negative things that have happened. We've all been through loss, disappointments, bad breaks. So those memories will come up most often. The good news is you have the remote control. Because the memory comes up doesn't mean you have to dwell on it. Learn to change the channel. A couple of years after my father died, I stopped by my mother's house to pick up something. Nobody was home. As I walked through the den, I immediately began to recall the night my father died. He had a heart attack in that very room. I could see him lying on the floor. By the time I got there on the day he died, the paramedics were shocking him, trying to get his heart to restart. The whole night played out in my mind. I could feel those same emotions. Then I did what I'm asking you to do. I said, no thanks, I'm not going there. I'm not reliving that. I'm not feeling those same sad, depressing emotions. I simply chose to change the channel. I started remembering all the great times we had together. Times we laughed and had fun, traveled the world. I focused on the time we went down the Amazon River, the many times my father played with our son Jonathan. There was another channel to switch over to. Do you need to start changing the channel? Are you reliving every hurt, disappointment, bad break? As long as you're replaying the negative, you will never fully heal. It's like a scab that's starting to get better, but it will only get worse. Get it? Emotional wounds are the same way. If you're always reliving your hurts, watching them on the movie screen of your mind, talking about them, telling your friends, that's just reopening the wound. You have to change the channel. When you look back over your life, can you find one good thing that's happened? Can you remember one time when you know it was the hand of God protecting you, promoting you, healing you? Switch over to that channel. Get your mind going in a new direction. A reporter asked me one time what my biggest failure has been. It's regret. I don't mean to sound arrogant, but I don't remember what my biggest failure was. I don't dwell on that. I'm not watching that channel. We all make mistakes. We all do things we wish we had done differently. You can learn from your mistakes. You're not supposed to keep them in the forefront of your mind. You're supposed to remember the things you did right, the times you succeeded, the times you overcame the temptation, the time you were kind to strangers. Some people are not happy because they remember every mistake they've made since 1927. They've got a running list. Do yourself a big favor, change the channel. Quit dwelling on how you don't measure up, how you just should have been more disciplined, should have stayed in school, should have spent more time with your children. You may have fallen down, but focus on the fact that you got back up. You may have made a poor choice, but dwell on your good choice. You may have some weaknesses, but remember you've got strength. Focusing on what's wrong with you and start focusing on what's right with you. You won't ever become all you were created to be. You're against yourself. You have to retrain your mind. Be disciplined about what you dwell on. Several years ago, I was playing basketball with our son Jonathan. We played one-on-one for years. For the first time, he beat me, fair and square, 15-14. I gave him a high five, then I told him he was grounded. During the game, at one point, Jonathan dribbled around me, went up for a shot. I came out of nowhere, timed it just right, and blocked his shot. I swatted the ball away and it went flying into the bushes. I felt like an NBA star. A couple of days later, we went to the gym to play with some friends. Jonathan said, "Dad, tell everybody about what happened the other night." I said, "Oh yeah, Jonathan went up for this shot. I must have been this high in the air and I blocked it. It was something else." He said, "No, Dad, I meant tell him about how I beat you." What's funny is I didn't remember my defeat. I remembered my victory. First thing that came to my mind wasn't that I lost the game to him, but the fact that I did something good. It's because I've trained my mind to remember the right things. For many people, it's just the opposite. They won the game, but they remember all the mistakes they made. They never feel good about themselves. They're always focused on something that they didn't do good. It's all in how you train your mind. It depends on what channel you're watching. Don't make the mistake of remembering what you should forget. Your disappointments or your failures. Forget what you should remember. Your victories, your successes, all the hard times you overcame. In the Old Testament, God commanded his people peace and celebrations. One of the main reasons was so they would remember what he had done. Several times a year, they would stop what they were doing so everybody could take off. They would celebrate how God brought them out of slavery, how God defeated their enemies, how he protected them. They were required to remember. In another place, it talks about how they put down what they called memorial stones. These were big stones. Today we would call them historical markers. The stones reminded them of specific victories. Every time they'd go by certain stones, they would recall an event. This stone was for when we were brought out of slavery. This stone is for when our child was healed. This stone is for how God provided for our needs. Having these memorial stones helped them to keep God's deeds fresh in their mind. In the same way, you should have your own memorial stones. When you look back over your life, you should remember not when you failed, not when you went through a divorce, not when you lost a loved one, not when the boss did you wrong. That's remembering what you're supposed to forget. You need to switch over to the other channel. Remember when you met the love of your life. Remember when your child was born. Remember when you got that new position. Remember the peace you felt when you lost it. Remember the strength you had in that difficult time. It looked dark. You didn't think you'd see another happy day again. God turned it around and gave you joy for mourning, beauty for ashes. Today you're healthy, happy, strong. We should all have our own memorial stones. My mother marked the 31st anniversary of her victory over cancer. 31 years ago, doctors gave her a few weeks to live, but another year just went by. We're healthy and whole. That's a memorial stone. Another one for me is December 1st, 2003, when Mayor Lee Brown handed us the key to our new church building in Houston, or a compact center. That facility is a memorial stone. I also remember when I walked into a jewelry store and met Victoria for the first time. God answered her prayer. God answered my prayer. I put up another memorial stone in remembrance of the fact that when my father died, I didn't know how to minister. God gave me the grace to step up and pastor the church. That's what I'm constantly remembering, good things. The question to you is, do you have any memorial stones out? What you remember will have a great impact on what kind of life you live. Remember your failures, your disappointments, your hurts, that will keep you stuck. If you just change what you're remembering, start remembering your successes, your victories, times you've overcome, that will allow you to step into new levels of favor. You may be in tough times, facing challenges, but when you remember the right things, you won't be saying, this problem is too big. This sickness is going to be the end of me. Instead, you'll be saying, God, you did it for me once. No, you can do it again. This is what David did when he was about to face Goliath, a giant twice his size. He could have focused on how big Goliath was, how Goliath had more experience, more training, more weapons. all that would have done is discourage him. The scripture says David remembered that he had killed a lion and a bear with his own hands. What was he doing? Remembering his victory. David could have remembered that his brothers mistreated him and his father disrespected him. There were negative things in his past, like with all of us. But David understood this principle. Dwelling on defeats, failures, unfair situations will keep you stuck. He chose to dwell on his victory. He rose above that challenge and became who God created him to be. You may feel like you're up against a giant. You're going to stay encouraged. You'll have the faith to overcome. Be like this. Instead of dwelling on how impossible it is and how you'll never make it, remember your victory. All through the day, get your memorial stones out. Lord, thank you for that time when the odds were against me, but you turned it around. God, I remember when you promoted me, vindicated me, made my wrongs right. Rehearse your victories, remembering the good things is strong. In 2007, a young lady named Rachel Smith won the Miss USA. She's a very bright girl who has traveled the world helping underprivileged children. That year, she competed in the Miss Universe pageant. She was walking out on the stage during the evening gown competition. She lost her footing on the slick floor, fell flat on her back. Millions of people around the world were watching on television. So embarrassed, she got up as quickly as she could and kept a smile on her face. The audience wasn't very forgiving. There were jeers and laughs, boos, very humiliating. In spite of that fall, Rachel, she had to go up and answer a question randomly chosen from a hat. She walked out again to the same spot where she had fallen just a few minutes earlier. She pulled a question out of the hat with millions of people watching. The question was, if you could relive and redo any moment of your life over again, what would that moment be? Just experienced the most embarrassing moment of her life 20 minutes earlier. How many of us would have said, I'd like to relive that moment when I fell on the stage. I'd like to do that over again. But without missing a beat, he said, if I could relive anything again, I would relive my trip to Africa, working with the orphans, seeing their beautiful smiles, feeling their warm hugs. Instead of reliving a moment of embarrassment, a moment of pain, Rachel chose to replay a moment of joy where she was making a difference, proud of her. We all fall down in our lives. We all make mistakes. We all have embarrassing, unfair moments. You can be sure those images will replay again and again on the movie screen of your mind. You've got to do as Rachel did. Change the channel. Put on your victories. Put on your successes. Put on your accomplishments. God performed miracle after miracle for the Israelites. He supernaturally brought them out of slavery and all these plagues on their enemies. Even though the Israelites were living next door, the plagues did not affect them. When they came to a dead end at the Red Sea, with Pharaoh and his army chasing them, it might have looked like their lives were over, but the water parted. They went through the sea on dry ground. Gave them water out of a rock. He led them by a cloud by day, a pillar of fire by night. But in spite of all of this, they never made it to the promised land. Psalm 78 tells us why. It says they forgot what he had done, all the amazing miracles he had shown them. Forget what you should be remembering. It can keep you in your promised land. The Israelites became discouraged, started complaining, asking Moses, why did you bring us out here to die in the desert? When they faced an enemy, they thought, we don't have a chance. They had already seen God's goodness in amazing ways. They had seen God do the impossible, but because they forgot about it, they were afraid, worried. It kept them from their destiny. What God has done for you? Have you let what once was a miracle, ordinary, doesn't exist anymore? You don't thank God for it? Look back over your life Remember how God brought you to where you are. The big things, the small things. You know, if God did it for you once, He can do it for you. You may get discouraged and think, I don't know how I'll ever get out of this problem. I'll never get well. That happens. Go back and remember the Red Seas. Remember the enemies He's delivered you from. Remember the battles He's fought, the restoration, the vindication, the favor He's shown. Every one of us can look back and see the hand of God on our lives. God has opened doors that should never open for you, as He did the Israelites. He's helped you accomplish things that you could have never accomplished on your own. He's brought you out of difficulties that you thought you'd never survive. He's protected, promoted, and given you opportunity. The key to staying encouraged so you can see God open new doors, turn negative situations around, is to never forget what He's done. The scripture says we should tell our children and our grandchildren. We should even pass down stories. We read a lot about the staffs people carried around with them. They weren't just
Okay guys, ito nga pala yung binigay sa akin ng immigration officer pagkatapos katakan ng aking passport. Meron silang welcome gift, miniature na wine. At ito naman yung galing sa aking tour guide na si Nicolette, ang kanyang welcome gift. Merong chocolate na tiramisu at keychain at may kasama pa yung adapter. Okay, dahil ginagamit ko yung adapter. Ito yung kasama na welcome gift ni Nicolette, adapter din. Yan. Your passport, please. Okay guys, ito nga pala yung, okay guys, okay guys, okay guys, ito nga pala yung binigay sa akin ng immigration officer pagkatapos nataka ng aking passport. Meron silang welcome gift, miniature na wine. At ito naman yung galing sa aking tour guide na sinikulit ang kanyang welcome gift. Merong chocolate na tiramisu at keychain at may kasama pa yung adapter. Okay, dahil gamit ko yung adapter. Ito yung kasama na welcome gift ni Nicolette. Experience yan. This is what experience yan. This is what we are. This time I love you even better than I ever did before. And you'll be in my heart forevermore. And now we're starting over again. It's not the easiest thing to do. I feel it inside again. It's every time I think of you, I know we're starting over again. Come home, my lover and friend. We can start it over again. And now we're starting over again. It's not the easiest thing to do. I feel it inside again. It's every time I look at you. Now we're starting over again. Na, 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 na. We can start it over again. We too much too young to know again. All I need is that I know. All I need is that I know. Feeling bright. I know we're starting over again. It's not the easiest thing to do. Get it inside again. It's every time I look at you. I know we're starting over again. George, we too much too young to know you. No, you're not. All I need is that I know. Too much too young. The feeling right. I know we're starting over again. It's not the easiest thing to do. It inside again. Every time I think of you. It's not the easiest thing to do. Feel it inside again every time. We too much too young to know it good. Tonight, all I need is saying no. All I need is there now I know. The feeling right. I know we're starting over again. Not the easiest thing to do. I feel it inside again. Every time I look at you, know we're starting over again. It's not the easiest thing to do. I feel it inside again. Every time I think of you, we're starting over again. It's not the easiest thing to do. Come home, my lover and friend. We are starting over again. We are starting over again. And now we're starting over again. It's not the easiest thing to do. I feel it inside again. Every time I think of you. Your first love in your hand. Feel standing. Iwan mo ako. Mapalimig ka sana. Bakit iwan mo na lang ako? Lamig. My God. Lamig. Lima. Shin. Ta-na-na-na.